I checked the time on my phone again, and only 35 minutes had passed, even though it felt like an eternity had passed since Mrs. Johnson's class had started. I was only half paying attention to what Mrs. Johnson was saying. The other half was dreaming about Alex. Alex was the most popular kid in our grade, and maybe even the whole school. He played both football and basketball. Alex was tall and big, taller than other boys our age, and he had a perfect body. When he walked past me, I just couldn't help it. I got images in my head, visions of valiant warriors from the past, men who rushed into battle bellowing their war cry at the top of their lungs. On top of that, Alex was also funny. He was also the school's bad boy. This means that Alex got into trouble with teachers often, but even the teachers loved him, and when they punished him, they usually did it with a smile, and we all knew it was because they didn't want to make it too obvious that they had a favorite. Alex also used to be my best friend. We used to be thick as thieves when we were younger. Where Alex was generally liked, I was the opposite. I was the school's resident nerd, but even that did not make me cute or something like that. I kept to myself a lot, and somehow many students disliked me. I guess they thought I was being snobbish or something because I was smarter than the rest of them. It was not that I didn't like people, I just really liked being on my own. Besides, I was not always alone. Sometimes I hung out with a few other kids. And I didn't used to be a loner. I used to have Alex, and that was enough. Alex had been my best friend right until we got to high school, and he became Mr. Popular. Anyway, it was good that Alex and I stopped being best friends because I have had the biggest crush on him since we were 14. It might even have gone on longer than that. Even though we used to be best friends and had been friends since we were kids, somehow Alex and I had drifted apart during high school, and now we are almost like strangers to each other. Recently, Alex has been in my thoughts a lot. I remember when we were about to begin high school, we talked about attending the same college and sticking together forever. It was that day that I was thinking about as I watched Alex exchange notes with a girl behind him. That Sunday afternoon, Alex and I had been playing games all afternoon. School was starting in 2 weeks, and if I had known that Alex and I would soon stop being friends, I would have told him how I felt right there. "You know what would be nice?" I asked Alex as I dribbled his defender on screen. Before I could shoot, he tackled me and gave away a free kick. "What's that?" Alex asked, pausing the game to look at me. "If we went to the same college," I said. "Imagine that. We could be roommates in college. I think that would be even more fun." "I guess it would be nice in California together," Alex said with a smile on his face. He folded his hands behind his head and looked as if he was imagining us together in college. I didn't want to go to California. I had been thinking of Princeton, mostly because Einstein taught there. "California?" I asked. "Why California?" Alex looked back at me, his beautiful green eyes holding my own. "I guess for you, if it's not MIT or Harvard, it's not good enough. Well, not all of us are smart enough, you know? I actually was thinking about Princeton, but I guess California is God too." I stayed silent for a moment and then asked, "Why California though?" Alex's eyes twinkled as he replied, "Sam, think about all the beautiful beaches and women. Women everywhere, dude. Think about it. With my looks and your brains, we will rule." He struck a pose that made me laugh. In that moment, I seriously thought about going to California just to be with him. "We'll rule California, Alex. Me and you together." I unpaused the game, but Alex paused it again. "That would be nice," he said and shrugged. But his next words surprised me. "But what about your dream school? I know you've always wanted to go to Princeton. Einstein taught there for a while, right?" Wow. So Alex listens to me. I had only mentioned Princeton to him once. With a sigh, I replied, "Yeah, but I don't know. I guess if we went to different colleges, we could still stay friends. We could visit each other on some weekends and breaks." "True," Alex agreed, but there was a hint of longing in his voice. "But it wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't get to see each other every day and hang out all the time." "I don't know," I admitted. "I really want to go to Princeton, but I also don't want to go to college without my only friend." Alex started the game again. "I'm not your only friend," he said as I played the free kick, even though both of us knew he was. and no matter what happens, we'll still be friends. I hope so, I said, a mixture of uncertainty and hope in my voice. Then Alex spoke up. Hey, he said, his tone serious. You know what? I don't really care where I go to college as long as I can be on a sports team. So why don't I just choose the same college as you? I stared at Alex in disbelief. Are you serious? I asked. Alex nodded with a determined look. Yeah, he said, a hint of a grin forming. I'm serious. There are women at Princeton, too. His face became serious. Wait, there are women in Princeton, too, right? His face was so funny. Yes, I replied. Although I was laughing, deep down I was disappointed. There are women at Princeton. Although that was 4 years ago, the memory still made me smile. I was lost in the memory of that day and smiling in class so I did not hear the teacher, Mrs. Johnson, call my name. She called my name twice before the girl next to me. Tracy tapped my shoulder. I was startled. Sam, do you mind sharing what's funny with the class? Maybe we can share in your amusement? You can bet that I was not going to tell the entire class that I was daydreaming about my crush. Besides, it was the last class for the day, and I didn't even really need to be there. To be honest, the issue of college was settled for me. At this point, I was just waiting to graduate high school. I shook my head, but Mrs. Johnson did not like that. She did not like being defied in general. Her face scrunched up, she walked closer to my desk at the front of the class, and she asked me, "Were you even listening to me, Sam?" "Sorry, Mrs. Johnson," I said. I got carried away a little. I should have looked down or something, but I was feeling bold. You know, not listening in class is how people miss out on college, Sam, Mrs. Johnson said. In my head, I was like, does this woman not know that I'm top of this class and neck with Yasmin in the race for valedictorian? For some reason, that just pissed me off, so I muttered, I don't need your class to get to college anyway. Mrs. Johnson's face turned red with anger. Her eyes went round and she tightened her fists. Detention, she said through clenched teeth. After school, in my classroom. Fine, I said, and sat down. I took my pen and started spinning it. Alex, who was sitting several rows behind me, snickered. What's so funny, Alex? Mrs. Johnson asked. Nothing, Alex said, still trying to hide his laughter. He ducked his head, but everyone could see that he was laughing silently. Detention, Mrs. Johnson repeated. After school, in my classroom. Alex just shrugged. Cool, he replied to her. Mrs. Johnson stormed out of the classroom, leaving us alone. What an old bat, Alex said. The entire class roared with laughter, and even I joined them. When school ended about 20 minutes later, Alex and I waited in the class for Mrs. Johnson. She made us wait until students had mostly cleared out before coming. When she arrived, she didn't even sit down. She just gave the both of us an annoyed look and said, "Follow me." I carried my backpack and rushed after her. I felt like I should apologize to her for my behavior earlier. I was a good student. I didn't even know what got into me. But then Alex said something, and I almost laughed. My mom's gonna kill me if I don't get home on time, Alex said. He dragged his palm over his face and sighed tiredly. He looked so good that I had to turn my eyes away and focus on Mrs. Johnson's back. Mrs. Johnson led us to the library, which was on the other side of the school. She walked up to the librarian's desk and explained that we were both there for detention. The librarian was surprised to see me. He said he didn't expect me to get in trouble, but then he pointed to Alex and said, "Now you, I am not surprised about." Like I said before, Mr. Terrence was smiling at Alex. Mrs. Johnson got annoyed at Mr. Terrence because he was smiling at Alex. He told her that he had enough work to keep us busy for an entire week. Personally, I didn't mind, but Alex had practice during the week, and if he wasn't there, he would miss the coming games as punishment. Alex tried to beg Mrs. Johnson to reduce the detention or allow him to go to practice and serve detention some other time, but she was not interested. She looked very satisfied that Alex was going to miss the training. When she left, I can swear she was doing a little dance with her head. "Come with me, boys," Mr. Terrence said. The librarian led us over to a section of shelves that were filled with books for children. I immediately knew we were going to be doing a lot of work. I went to the library a lot, and I know that the children's section was always scattered even before Mr. Terrence said, "This section is a bit of a mess." Alex was like, "A bit?" He did a 360, looking at the entire section, and then he asked if an army marched through the place. Mr. Terrence snorted. He told us to put everything in order, and when we finish with the children's section, we will start on the other sections of the library. "Do we really have to do this for a whole week?" Alex asked. Mr. Terrence shrugged. "That's not up to me, Alex," he said. Alex and I looked at each other and groaned. "This is going to take forever," Alex said. "I know," I said, "but we don't have a choice." My voice was very low. Even I barely heard it. We started with the floor, arranging the toys, blankets, and all the things that had been left lying around. We spent the next hour rearranging the books. Alex and I barely spoke to each other while we were rearranging the children's section. What was there to say anyway? Several times, I thought of saying something to him, just something casual, but I couldn't make myself do it. But I shouldn't even have worried. Wherever you put Alex, he would find something to amuse himself, and he got me involved. It started with a pop-up book, and Alex pretending he was narrating a Lord of the Rings movie, and soon we were playing in the library we were supposed to be arranging. I had no idea how much time had passed, but when I checked the time, it was almost 7 p.m. Shit! I stopped laughing, which made Alex ask, "What is it, Sam?" "Library closes by 6. It's almost 7, I replied. "Mr. Terrence isn't going to lock us in," Alex said. Yes, he wouldn't. But if he believed we weren't there, he would lock the library and leave. I tried to explain to him that although the library closed by 6, Mr. Terrence left by 6:30 because he spent those 30 minutes rearranging some books before closing. And since we had been playing around the library, it was easy for someone who expects us to be in one place to miss us. I saw Alex was about to start panicking about being locked in, so I just said, "Let's go see if Mr. Terrence is still around. Sometimes he leaves late." Although deep down, I knew that he had probably gone home, and we were locked in till tomorrow. We spent the next 10 minutes looking for Mr. Terrence, but we didn't find him. I did not want Alex to panic, so I kept looking with him, even though I knew very well that Mr. Terrence was long gone. At last, Alex accepted that we had been locked in. "Well, this is just great," I said. "We're going to have to spend the night here." I looked around the library. For the first time in my life, I did not like being inside a room full of books. It was funny that it was Alex who tried to cheer me up. "I know, but it's not that bad. You have plenty of books, and we can always borrow those blankets and stuffed animals from the children's section when we want to sleep." I dragged my fingers through my hair. I was getting angry at the whole situation, and Alex's stupid smile was not helping. I rested against a wall, but there was no wall, just an uncomfortable bookshelf. "Yeah, but what about food?" I asked him, because I was soon going to start starving, and we could not eat books. Alex just shrugged. We had absolutely no food, and the only water we could drink was the small water left in my water bottle. "We'll be fine," Alex said, and sat down in a chair. He picked a book and was opening and closing pages at random. The way he was behaving as if he hadn't been close to panicking just now pissed me off. "This is all your fault," I said, pushing off the wall and heading towards him. "If we had just done what we were asked to do, we would not be stuck in this place now." Alex did not even take me seriously. He just shrugged and threw his hands around nonchalantly. "You didn't have to join me, though, but you did. So, it's kind of both our faults," Alex said, his left hand moving between us. I wanted to scream at him, and I kept clenching my fists, holding myself back from blowing up. For God's sake, we didn't even do what we're supposed to do, and now we were stuck in here all night. I went back to the children's section and started arranging the books, but Alex did not let it go. He stormed over and asked how I could blame him for getting us stuck here, when it was my fault we had detention in the first place. I honestly felt like hitting him with a book. I was fine with being blamed for my detention, but did he have to laugh? Besides, was it not him I was thinking about? I turned on him sharply and slammed the book in my hand on the bookshelf. I only got detention because I stopped before I said I was thinking about him. I turned back to the shelf, slowly arranging the books while counting my breaths in my head. Well, you didn't have to join me. If I had been here alone, I would not be locked in now, but you just had to laugh at Mrs. Johnson because you always have to be the center of attention. You're the one who disrespected the teacher. I just laughed. He picked a book and angrily shoved it inside the bookshelf without even checking if it was in the right order. You called her an old bat, I shouted at him. It's not like she heard me. That was what really pissed me off. So it's okay for you, but I'm not allowed to say anything to teachers? I asked. That's not what I said, Alex said. I'm just saying that there are different rules for different situations. Well, I don't care about that, I said. I'm tired of you always making excuses for your bad behavior, and I'm tired of you getting away with everything when you're clearly a culprit, I concluded. I shoved him out of the way and angrily walked away. I didn't even know where I was walking to, but I just walked away. Alex grabbed my shoulder and stopped me. Fine. I was the one who got us locked in here. I'm the one who's always causing trouble. Are you happy now? I took a step back, feeling overwhelmed by his anger. I had not expected him to yell in my face like that. It had been overwhelming. I paused, not sure of what to do. Calmly, I wanted to apologize to him, but something held me back. Besides, I was still frustrated about being locked in the library. Alex walked away, leaving me standing alone in the children's section. My footsteps echoed as I walked through the library aisles, my heart heavy with remorse. After several minutes, I spotted Alex sitting in a quiet corner, reading a book. I took a deep breath and approached him, my steps soft on the polished floors. When I reached his side, I cleared my throat, and he looked up, surprise in his eyes. I could not stand the silence any longer. Alex, I'm so sorry for what I said earlier. I didn't mean to blame you for everything. I should not have blown up like that. Alex's expression softened, and he closed the book he'd been reading. Sam, you don't have to apologize. I know you didn't mean any harm. Yeah, I said. I wasn't sure of what to say next. Alex looked at me as if he was waiting for me to say something. I had to ask, what? There's something on your mind, Alex pointed out. No, there isn't. We used to tell each other everything? Alex said suddenly. Yeah, we used to, I replied slowly. Alex's response was tinged with bitterness. So why did we stop? I was taken aback by his question. I don't know. I guess we just drifted apart, I replied, uncertain about where this conversation was heading. Alex let out a mocking laugh. We just drifted apart, he repeated, his tone filled with sarcasm. Alex? I asked. I was getting more and more confused and anxious. You want to talk, Sam? He asked, his eyes locked on mine, his voice rising again. How about why you stopped talking to me? His words struck me like a bolt of lightning. I hadn't stopped talking to him. It was Alex who had become popular and abandoned our friendship. I didn't stop talking to you, Alex. We just went in different directions, I argued, my voice very small. Alex scoffed, his eyes intense. And denial is a river in Egypt, he retorted. I turned to face him. We're here all night, Sam. When you're ready to face the truth, we'll talk, he stated firmly, then returned his attention to the textbook he had been reading. I checked, and it was history, specifically the part for our upcoming test. I tried again. Fine. What do you mean I stopped talking to you? Let me start that conversation with something very important, he began in a very patient tone. Remember when we were 9, and we were both sent to summer camp? Alex asked. I was unsure why he wanted to talk about that of all things. Weren't we in a major argument right now? But when I looked into his eyes and found no sign of nonsense, I tried to relax a little. Then, the memory of that summer camp came back. Neither of us had wanted to go, but our parents had insisted. It was much later that we later discovered that they had planned a child-free cruise for themselves that summer. "We fought so hard not to go," I reminisced, a smile playing on my lips, a little more relaxed now at those memories. Alex chuckled, his memories surfacing with mine. "Yeah, we did." At the fact that he was following along, I continued the trip down memory lane. When we were finally at camp and the counselors wanted to separate us, what did we tell them? I asked, knowing exactly where this conversation was leading. "We either stay together or we'll turn this place upside down until we're put together," Alex replied. "And they thought we were joking," he continued. "Until we did make good on our threats," I added with a chuckle. Alex and I exchanged a knowing look and erupted into laughter. We had been inseparable since childhood, always having each other's backs. By the time they eventually put us together, it was too late. We had already gained a reputation, I noted. "And we just had to uphold that reputation," Alex concluded, his eyes reflecting a certain understanding. I understood that confession did not come out for no reason. I thought of it a moment too long, and it was then that I sensed the shift in our conversation's direction. "Why did you start making trouble at school, Alex?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. Alex sighed, and his shoulders slumped. "Because of you, dummy." "Me? Why?" I asked. My shock was very obvious on my face. "What the hell do you mean, because of me?" Alex admitted. "I don't know. I guess I thought you would try to talk sense into me, and we would somehow go back to being friends." I couldn't hide my astonishment. "Wait, you became the school's popular miscreant just to get my attention?" "Yes, Dumbo," Alex replied, his tone a mixture of exasperation and affection. How was it not obvious? I thought back to the times that I had actually seen Alex make trouble. He was right. I was there. Every single time. I could think of a few. The time he had gotten detention for pranking the kids on the chess club, which I was part of. I had been there when he had snuck in before our meeting and poured glue on every board and piece. Jessica had a knight stuck to her hand for 3 days. This was earlier in high school when we still occasionally spoke. I had been so embarrassed because he was my friend and they had almost kicked me out of the club. I went home and was so angry that I yelled at Alex as soon as I saw him. "I can't believe you did that, Alex. They almost kicked me out of the club." Alex just shrugged and said, "It was just a joke." I was so angry that I could barely speak. "It wasn't funny, Alex. You ruined everything. Jessica still has a knight stuck to her hand." Alex laughed. "That's hilarious." I couldn't believe that he thought it was funny. "It's not funny, Alex. It's mean." "Calm down, Sam." He put his arms around my shoulder. "It's not like I'm hurting anyone." I was so frustrated that I pushed him away. "You're making them feel embarrassed and humiliated." Alex rolled his eyes. I had been so angry that I had just walked away and stopped talking to him. I think that was the beginning of us not talking at all. The time he had gotten in trouble with the principal for setting off stink bombs in the school cafeteria. Nobody could eat that day. I had been there when he had lit the fuses and thrown them down the hallway. In fact, he had waited for me to enter before setting them off. The whole school smelled like rotten eggs. The principal had been furious. He had suspended Alex for a week. I was relieved that he was finally getting what he deserved. Each time he did something, I distanced myself from him more. "But why?" I pressed, still trying to understand the reason for his actions. "Because we were supposed to stick together," Alex explained, "and you just left me alone. Why did you do that, dude?" I could have answered several things, especially those that he did in his childishness, but instead of any of that, what I let out was, "I have a crush on you." Alex didn't even look up. His phone's flashlight cast an eerie glow in the dimly lit room. "Took you long enough," he remarked casually. My voice trembled, laced with surprise. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" Alex finally raised his gaze from the textbook, his eyes meeting mine. "I know. I've known for a while now." "How?" I was baffled, my mind racing. "You're not very subtle, Sam," he replied with a hint of amusement. My face flushed, a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. So, the whole school knows? My voice shot up an octave, echoing through the hushed library. Alex chuckled, shaking his head. No. I guess I've known you for so long that I can tell. He paused, his expression turning serious. You know, at first, I thought it was some other guy you liked that was making you distance yourself from me. But then I realized it was me. I remained silent, absorbing his words. And you said nothing? I finally managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. So did you, he countered. Besides, it was your feelings to admit to or not. My mind wandered back to the past few months, the awkward silences, the unspoken tension. I had noticed a change in Alex, a new crowd he seemed to gravitate towards. The jocks, the cheerleaders, the popular kids. I felt a pang of insecurity, a fear of being left behind. I thought you had outgrown me, I confessed, my voice laced with self-doubt. Alex placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. God, Sam, I am on the team. I will inevitably hang around the jocks, he said, making air quotes around the word. And most of the girls you see me with are cheerleaders or friends of the other players. I started to say, but I paused. I was just being foolish, huh? I said, my gaze fixed on the floor. Well, not exactly, Alex replied, his eyes filled with understanding. I thought you would be mad or something if you knew, I explained, my heart pounding in my chest. I expected an answer, a tease, but he did something better. Alex leaned closer, our noses almost touching. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my heart skipping a beat. His eyes, those deep, soulful eyes, were locked on mine. And then he kissed me. It was a gentle kiss, full of tenderness and unspoken emotions. My body melted into his, and for a moment, the world around us faded away. I like you too, dumbass, he whispered against my lips. A wave of relief and joy washed over me. I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reflected the happiness bubbling within me. Alex smiled back, his eyes sparkling with affection. As the kiss ended, we remained there for a moment, lost in each other's gaze. Then, he really decided to run back into the past memories. Remember that time we stole the kitchen keys and made pancakes for the whole camp? Alex asked. I grinned as I struggled to recover from the kiss. How could I forget? Alex and I had been at camp for 2 weeks when we decided that we were tired of eating the same bland food every day. We decided to take matters into our own hands. We had enlisted the help of 3 other kids, one of them older. She was the only one who came willingly. We waited until everyone was asleep, and then we snuck into the kitchen. We found the keys to the pantry and the freezer, and we started to gather our ingredients. We made enough pancakes for everyone at camp, and we even made a special batch for the counselors. We left the pancakes in the dining hall, and then we went back to our cabin. The next morning, when everyone came to breakfast, they were surprised to see the pancakes. The counselors were even more surprised. Who made these pancakes? One of the counselors asked. Alex and I looked at each other and smiled. We didn't say anything, but we knew that everyone knew it was us. The counselors were not happy at first, but they enjoyed the pancakes. As punishment, they assigned us as kitchen help. They decommissioned us when we started throwing food parties late at night. Remember that time we convinced everyone that the camp was haunted? Alex asked. I laughed out loud. That was so much fun. Alex and I had always loved ghost stories. We would stay up late at night telling each other stories about the ghosts that we were sure haunted our camp. One night, we decided to take our ghost stories one step further. We waited until everyone was asleep, and then we started to make strange noises outside of our cabin. We knocked on the walls, we whispered, and we even made some moaning sounds. The next morning, everyone was talking about the strange noises they had heard during the night. Some people even said that they had seen ghosts. The counselors didn't believe us at first, but they eventually started to get worried. It got so bad that they hired someone who claimed to find ghosts to come to the camp. but he didn't find any ghosts. In the end, the counselors figured out that it was us who had been making all of the noise. They were not happy. They were not happy at all. Alex and I continued to turn camp on its head for the rest of the summer. We played pranks on the counselors, we organized secret parties, and we even started a camp newspaper. By the end of the summer, everyone at camp knew who Alex and Sam were. We were the troublemakers, but we were also the two who made camp fun for everyone. The counselors eventually gave up trying to separate us. They realized that it was better to have us together than to have us wreaking havoc on our own. Alex and I were both sad to leave camp at the end of the summer. We had made so many memories and we had made so many friends, but we knew that we would always have each other. The rest of the night, we talked, reminiscing about our childhood and how close we had been. Then, Alex dropped a bomb on me. "Did you get into Princeton?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Good. It would have been terrible to go New Jersey on my own," Alex said. "You got into Princeton?" I yelled. Alex nodded. "But how?" I didn't know his grades, but I knew that he wasn't a serious enough student in class. "Tutors. That's what I spend most of my pocket money on." My jaw hit the ground. I couldn't believe it. Alex had done that? I didn't know what to say, so I said the stupidest thing ever. "I can't believe you still remember," I said. "I can't believe you thought I would forget," Alex replied. Conclusion. The next morning, Mr. Terrence found us in the library. He was initially upset about our unscheduled sleepover, but upon hearing our story, he became apologetic for locking us in. We told him it was all right. Our parents had been worried sick and were relieved to find us in good condition. We explained that it was our fault that Mr. Terrence locked us in. Alex and I left the library hand in hand, knowing that our friendship had rekindled and transformed into something deeper. We would both attend Princeton and continue creating memories together. Our journey as best friends had come full circle, and we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As we stepped out of the library into the new day, the sun shining bright, I couldn't help but feel that our story had come full circle. From childhood friends causing mischief at summer camp, to high school pals drifting apart and finally finding our way back to each other, our bond had survived and grown stronger. And as we ventured into the next chapter of our lives, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, as friends, confidants, and maybe even something more. The end. Do you think Sam was right to abandon his friend when he started getting popular just because he wasn't really sure? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.